Greetings, fellow programmers. This is Pavel, and this is a C-sharp exercise from the book C-sharp How to Program, Chapter 12, Exercise 11, and it's called Payroll System Modification. Now, most of the code was given to us. It's in the book, and we're supposed to modify it. So we're supposed to modify the payroll system, as in was in figure from the book. So to include additional employee-derived class, piece worker, that represents an employee whose pay is based on the number of pieces of merchandise produced. Class piece worker should contain private instance variable wage to store employee's wage per piece, and pieces, which stores the number of pieces produced. We will provide a concrete implementation of method earnings in class piece worker that calculates the employee's earnings by multiplying the number of pieces produced by the wage. We will create an array of employee variables to store references to objects of each concrete class in the employee hierarchy. So the book gave us the classes for base plus commission employee, employee, which is the base class, and then hourly employee, and payroll system test, which contains the main method, and a salaried employee. So if I run it now, then we'll get a simple output that simply states, okay, employees processed polymorphically, and then it lists all the employees: salaried employee, the name, the social security number, the weekly salary, and how much was earned. The only exception that there's hourly employee, commission employee, and base salaried commission employee, and that one is the last one, base salaried commission employee, is a little different because according to the exercise in the book, the commission was increased by 10% for some of them, so that one was processed a little differently. But this is really not our concern how these other classes are being processed, because we're only supposed to add a new class. So, but let me walk you through the structure quickly. So employee is the base class. It's an abstract class, and it contains the first name, last name, social security, some properties, and it has a toString that is overridden, and it outputs the employee's social security, first name, and last name, because the name and social security every employee has, regardless of how the pay is calculated or anything like that. So this will be output for all employees directly from the base class. Now if I go, let's say, to hourly employee, it has its own implementations. It has the wage, which is calculated differently for hourly employee than it is for, let's say, salaried employee or commission employee. So each of these employee classes has a different implementation of wage, and then different implementation of earnings, because obviously the final earnings are different for each employee. The calculation for hourly employee is basically based on 40-hour week plus multiplied by whatever the wage is. But there's also an overtime, so that has to be added. But the salaried employees, they don't have overtime, so they have if I go to salaried employee, this one simply earning is the weekly salary. There is no other commission or overtime or anything like that. So these all of these have their own implementation of the earnings, but they all share the basis, like I said, the first name, last name. They all have wage. They and they all actually have earnings. It's just the way it's calculated for each of them is different. And then there's the base plus commission employee. That one was a little different because it inherits all of these inherit from the employee base class, but base plus commission employee inherits from commission employee. which when we look at it, that one, commission employee, inherits from employee. So the reason why the base plus commission employee inherits from the commission employee and not from the employee directly is because it's using the same structure as commission employee, but it is adding to it its own earnings. It has its own base salary that is added to the earnings, and the earnings, as you can see, is actually being called from its base class, which is the commission employee, because it's calculated the same for both of these classes. It's just that this one also has a base salary on top of the commission. And when we go to our main method, which is the payroll system test, we simply declare or create objects with the hard-coded data for the name, for the social security number, and for the salary. Now each of these they have their own constructor that calls the base, because remember the base class employee has the first name, last name, and social security, so it's the same for all of them. But they all have may have different parameters, but I don't think they actually do. They may have the same. Even the no, they all have actually different. Never mind. So because let's say salaried employee only needs the salary. There's no overtime or anything like that. Hourly employee has a little different values. If you go to hourly employee, the constructor expects the last name, first name, and social security, but it also expects the number of hours worked on top of the wage. And base plus commission employee expects all the first name, last name, social security, but it also expects sales and rate, and also another salary from it. And remember, base plus commission employee inherits from the commission employee, so it's calling its base and it's passing this data to it, which and from there it's also being passed to the employee. So that's the inheritance structure of the program, and we're supposed to add the another class called piece worker. So let me just do that. So I'll add class, and I'll call it, as they want us, piece worker. Now this one is its own, I'll make it public, and it will inherit from the base class, which is the employee. And they want us to have a few private variables. One of them was the pieces that this worker made or produced. So I'll create integer pieces. Private, it's gonna be double wages, and it might be all. So now the constructor itself, since it's inheriting from employee, it expects obviously the first name, it expects the last name, I'll just call it second, I guess, it doesn't matter. First name, second name, oh, never mind. First name, last name. It expects string of social security number, and it also we need to provide the wage and the pieces that were produced, because wage multiplied by pieces gives us the earnings. So we got a double wage and integer pieces. And now, since this is inheriting from employee, we have to call the base constructor because that one expects the first name, the last name, and the social security. Like I said, that's the same for each employee, so that's why we have that in the base class instead of typing it for each one separately. And it already tells us that the earnings is not implemented yet. That's because I didn't write the code yet, but it already knows that it has to be implemented because the employee, if we go into the employee, the earnings is an abstract decimal, so it's not being implemented in the employee class, but like I said, because it's different for each employee, so each employee implements this on its own. So if I can just implement the member just by double clicking on it. There might be a resharper thing, I don't know if you have it, but basically you just have to write the public override decimal earnings, and then we'll write the code in it. But before we do, in the constructor itself, we will well, first actually let's create properties for these private variables. So I will do the public double wage, and I'm not gonna do auto implemented properties because I'm going to do a little maybe okay, input check-in. So I will do return wage for get, but for set let me just do if the value provided is less than 0, in other words, if the wage that we enter is less than 0, then we will throw new argument out of range exception, because we cannot have a wage that is less than 0, obviously. And in it we will provide the wage and the value, and it's just like a little output for the user. Wage must be greater or equal greater or equal to 0. I guess we can have a 0 if he was sick or something, but it cannot be less than 0. That's the point. Okay, so if everything is okay though, if the value is correct, then we will assign our wage the value. And we will do something similar for our property for pieces. So we will do public integer pieces, and it's gonna be get return pieces, and set we will check to make sure that it's not 0 or less than 0. So if actually, you know what, I'm just gonna copy this thing. So if the value is less than 0, in other words, if you cannot make less than nothing when it comes to production, if you cannot make less than 0 pieces. So if it's less than 0, then we will throw an exception, and pieces made, that's value, and pieces must be greater than 0, otherwise our pieces will equal to the value. And now let's work on the earnings. The earnings is very simple. We will simply return the multiplication of the wage times pieces, but we wanna convert it to decimal, because obviously the calculation may have decimals. So we will do that, wage multiplied by pieces, and the result will be converted to decimal and returned. It has to be decimal because the return value is decimal, because the employee specified that the return value is decimal. If I don't I'm not sure if it actually would work if I don't make it. Yeah, it says cannot convert expression double to decimal, so we have to convert it to decimal. And finally, let's do a toString method, public override string to string, and like it is similar to from the other employees. Basically, they have their own string format, but they also call the base class toString method, which has the first name, last name, and social security output. So we'll do the same thing. So we will do we will return string dot format, and this one will simply say pieces worker or piece worker, and it will have few placeholders. There will be one that's for the base class, for the first name, last name, and social security number. Then after that, the format would be like the number of pieces. So that's gonna be a number. It's gonna be a number. It's, as an integer, number of pieces produced, and third one, that will simply say a string of that will display the total wages, just the string itself, and then after that we will do the last one, which is going to be a currency, which is gonna be the wage. And alright, so let's see if I go on the new line so you can see it better. So it will say piece worker, and then it will display its first name, last name, and social security, which is on our base dot toString. So it will display all the three information in one placeholder, and then on a new line, after the new line, we will simply output. Actually, I forgot I forgot the first one. After here, it will be. I have two, third and fourth, but I forgot the first one. The first one will simply say pieces made. I'm just passing the whole string into the first placeholder. And the second placeholder will have a number, which will be the number of pieces produced. The third is again a string. It will simply say total wages. So again, I'm passing this whole string into placeholder 3. I could mix it together. I could just write total wages right here, but I don't want to do that. I'm just using the placeholders. And finally, the last one, which is the currency, would be the wage. Okay, so that would be the override. Unexpected token, and that's because what am I passing there into the constructor? I have the first name, last name, social security. Oh, that's I just forgot a comma. That's all. Never mind. All right, so that should be the whole class actually. So let's implement it. Let's go to our main method, and in it we will simply create another piece worker over here, another worker, which is gonna be piece worker equals yet another piece worker, and in it we can already see that it's asking us for all the information for the name, wage, and the pieces that were made. So I'm just gonna create a first name will be Pavel, and the last name will be programmer, and it's my name. Social security, I have a really easy one to remember. It's 555555555, except it's a string, so I have to put it in quotes. It's asking for the wage. I don't know. Let's say I get paid $100. Let's make it actually this float so we can test that. Let's say $100.50 for each piece I make, because I get paid real well, and I made 10 pieces today or this week or whatever. So I created the new employee. Let me just put it on the new line like that, so it kind of matches the rest of it. So now we have an employee array of all the employees. So currently there's 4 of them: the salaried, hourly, commission, and base commission plus. So I have to add another one, so it's gonna be 5 of them. And I'll simply do employees. That's gonna be index 4. And equals, and this one will simply equal to the piece worker. So now we have an array of 5 employees. And that's actually all, because all the processing in the loop, when it comes over here, it loops through the array of employees and it outputs the current employee, which is the toString implementation. So when it comes to a piece worker, basically it will output this. It will output the piece worker number, the first name, last name, and all that stuff. And then it comes, it checks within it the special case for the base plus commission employee. We don't have to care about it right now in this exercise, but it simply has to look at this one, because this one has a little different way of displaying the output. It has something to do with the 10% increase, which is only valid for this particular type of employee. If it wasn't there, it would work just as well, but for the exercise in the book, this is what they had. So we will output all the toString method from each of the employees, and then at the end we also output this line, which is the same for all employees. Simply it will say the earned, whatever the employee earned, calls the current employee earnings. Current employee is the variable I created in the for each loop. So for each of these individual employees, it will calculate its own earnings and outputs it on the bottom of the output for each employee. And at the end, it will simply display that employee 1 is I don't know if it's hourly employee, employee 2 is commission employee or whatever. So if I run it now, let's see if I have any bugs there. So yeah, it output fine. So it comes over here, it outputs all the employees as it did before, but at the bottom now I have a piece worker with my information on it, except I have 0 total wages, so obviously I did something wrong with the calculations, as well as my toString method, because it's not outputting the correct string. So let me have a look at that. And why does it, let me run it again. What is it that it's actually outputting? So it doesn't output anything is being passed to it, like any wages or how many pieces were made. So there must be something wrong with the with our properties. Now we have wages, we have pieces. Oh, we have wages, we have pieces, but what we don't have in our constructor, we don't have them initialized. So I have to come over here and do wages, or the wage equals whatever we are passing into our constructor, which is the wage, and our property pieces will equal the pieces that is being passed to it. So let me see what we get now. So it calculated it correctly. 10 multiplied by 100.5 would be 1005, but it's still, the toString method is not being implemented correctly. So let me have a look at that. Come on, scroll down. everything seems to be correct with the string. Let me run it one more time. There's something a little different than that going on. It outputs the piece worker like a. It says employee 0 is salaried employee and employee 4 is piece worker. Oh, but it also it also outputs the namespace. When I created the class piece worker, it included the namespace, and I bet the others don't have that. Yeah, they are all in the same namespace, and which they don't use, and this one created its own namespace. So if I remove it, if I remove the namespace, so it's on the same level as all the others, other classes. If I run it now, that I have to remove it, I bet, from the test. Yes. So over here, it added it automatically when I created the employees, or the piece worker employee. So it added its namespace into using statement. But now they all should be within the same namespace. So if I run it now, hopefully I'll get the output. And yes, I do. It's a piece worker now, so it's working. So yeah, that happens with when you modify in other people's code. You create something like that, and the IntelliSense creates its namespace and everything, and these are little errors that sometimes happens. So hopefully that was actually useful to you to see that this kind of errors, because modifying other people's code will be something you do a lot in if you are working as a programmer. Alright, so yeah, that's the code. This is the solution to this exercise. Hopefully that was that you learned something, that you got a few tips and tricks, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. But before you go, don't forget to like and share and comment. Now take care. Bye.